players left. Pulls up, looking for the lead, and got it. Jaylen Williams, 2 seconds, 1:11.109. Now SGA, probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down. The Thunder finally get the defensive stop, and SGA puts them in front.
I'm Jaylen Williams. You're listening to Topic Thunder.
And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Topic Thunder podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Huntsinger at Thunder Chats. We're part of the B-Lead Network, and this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline.ag. Now, that's out of the way. It's just me tonight for the unit, but I'm not alone. We are joined by some very special guests, so let's get into that. Let's not bury the lead. Joining us today is a tandem of basketball expertise. They are employed by Colin Cowherd as part of the Volume Sports Network. They together are an encyclopedia, dictionary, and thesaurus of NBA, NFL, and NCAA knowledge and trivia. They're the surveyor of skills, inspectors of the it factor, tactical transcribers of tendency and tenacity. They have been called the Encyclopedia Bryant, Quincy Poindexter, and Shai Gilgeous-Analytics of their time. And they are here to talk Oklahoma City Thunder basketball with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, here to talk nerdy to us, returning friends of the pod, Carson Braber and Logan Camden of Nerd Sesh.
It's another phenomenal intro. Thank you, Dylan. Very, very kind. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us, Dylan.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's always a good time whenever you're on here. Usually we have some other hooligans on here from the unit to kind of vibe with. It's just me tonight, but we've got a fun episode planned for you guys today. Let's just get into it, man, because there's a lot to talk about. Because I wanted to do this a little bit differently than some of our other guest spots. And basically, I wanted to take it through the timeline of the Thunder season, going into like preseason, like your thoughts, predictions, all the way to after the playoffs, into the draft, what we're looking for, because we have options there. So without further ado, I guess we'll just go ahead and get started with kind of the preseason and overarching thoughts of the Thunder season. So like going into the year, you saw the moves that were made. We signed Isaiah Hartenstein. We traded Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. Vibes were high in Thunderland. I know the answer, but so everybody else knows the answer. What was your feelings on the Thunder going into the season, and how has the ebbs and flows of the season changed or maintained your opinion on that?
I was super high on the Thunder coming into the year. I picked them to win the title, and I absolutely loved what they did in the offseason. I thought that the Hartenstein move was phenomenal. I thought that it addressed some of their needs in terms of at least having the ability to go to those two big looks, having the ability to get bigger in the front court, more physical, better on the glass, allow Chet to thrive at either the 4 or the 5. It just gave them so much versatility, which I think, although you've barely seen – well, you haven't seen in the regular season Chet and Hartenstein out there together at all. Even the flashes in preseason I thought were encouraging, and you have seen that even when they are only down to one big, they have a really unique weapon in terms of their lineup versatility and their depth and how they can sort of adjust from matchup to matchup. And then I just thought that Giddey was a negative for them. And I think that Caruso, although you can have your questions about his offensive production, is obviously one of the elite perimeter defenders in basketball. So I thought that those were both moves that really took them up a level. And then I was just expecting progression from Chet, which I think we got in a big way. Obviously the injury sucked, but I thought the level that he was playing at before he went down was that of a top 20 player. I was so impressed by his aggression offensively. I was so impressed by his comfort as a ball handler, as a driver, attacking the rim in general, getting to the line more. So to me, they checked off that box incredibly well in terms of his progression. And I thought that this would be the best defense in the league. I did not expect historic defense and to even maintain that historic level with Chet out. When Chet is on the floor this year, they had a 98 defensive rating, and still, obviously, they're by far number one in the league on the defensive end. So that, to me, is what makes them, at this point, the title frontrunner. But then it's the ability of Shai to carry such a heavy load offensively and produce elite team offense results when he's on the floor, because I just think he is one of the best guards we've seen in the history of this game. I think specifically he's one of the best scoring guards that we've ever seen. Yeah. And he really, really is capable of floating this group to a high level offensively. Now, it falls apart when he's off the floor, which is a concern, but also I think getting Chet out there will improve the overall offensive skill here. So I feel really good about my preseason pick with the Thunder. I don't think that they're perfect because of some of the offensive concerns I do have around Shea, because is J-Dub consistently going to be the offensive number 2 they need to win the title? I don't know if I can resoundingly say yes to that. I'm a J-Dub optimist, but the last month and a half have in general been rough for him. And then some of the spot up shooting concerns, that was all there before the year though. Overall, Shea looks even better than I could have hoped. Chet looked better than I hoped even when he was healthy, and the defense has been even better than I hoped.
Yeah, I don't feel good about my preseason title pick because I took the Celtics to win it all. And at this point in the season, I am over in the Thunder's boat. I've been moved enough by this. And the biggest reason is the play of SGA because, yes, they improved depth-wise. The defense got better with the relatively inexpensive acquisitions of Hartenstein and Caruso, right? You got deeper. You got better defensive assets. You got more versatility like Carson was mentioning. But it's really been the play of SGA. And I think the MVP race is an interesting one between him and Jokic. I think it's one of the greatest we've ever seen, honestly. Like, they're both having 2 historic campaigns. But we talked about this a lot on our show, but specifically how he's carried the offense in the absence of a Chet Holmgren. I mean, that to me has been the story of the season so far, is how great the Thunder have been without their second best, offensive player and then their best defensive player, how they survived. It just gives you cause for optimism that when they are fully healthy, that if the offense can pull their weight, if J-Dub can pull his weight, I think he can. Chet's going to take the offense up a level if their spot-up shooting is good enough that, I mean, this team's going to be over the top. So the Celtics are slumping a little bit right now, and I wouldn't completely count them out, but I've been super impressed with the Thunder, and I think when Chet gets back fully healthy, I mean, they're going to be even scarier. So right now, they are my title pick at this point in the season.
Heck yeah, I love that. I mean, and like I said, vibes were high going into season. Now vibes are still very high, despite the ebbs and flows like we talked about. And, obviously, like you guys talked about how the Thunder have been able to maintain this level after sustaining the injuries and stuff. And one of the things that I've kind of brought up multiple times on this show is one of the things that have helped out a lot in terms of the rotation guys and terms of the role players is Casey Wallace kind of settling into that 5th starter role. Early in the year, it was it's going to be Casey, it's going to be Isaiah Joe, it's going to be Aaron Wiggins. And it was just a revolving door. And none of those guys could really catch rhythm. Once Casey kind of went to the starting lineup, not only did he settle down, start playing better, also Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe were able to start stringing together good performances off the bench as well, because they were able to, there was certainty going into, each night. They were able to find rhythm in their role. And I think that's played a huge part into it. You talk about the concerns in terms of spot up shooting and scoring around Shea, that helped in the last month. And, talking about things kind of trending in the right direction before the Hartenstein injury. Even Jaylen Williams, as big of a struggle as you guys said that last month and a half has happened, he's had a couple really good games in these last 4 or 5 game stretch. We won't talk about that first Dallas game when, it was just him running the show. But last night I was very encouraged because that was a big question mark about Dallas specifically. What is Dub going to be able to do against Dallas? That is a team whose physicality really bothers him. And I think that without Dub, we were not even close to being in a position to even, stage any kind of comeback last night.
Yeah. And I really do think that J-Dub is an incredibly talented basketball player. It's just going to come down to what level of an advantage creator can he be? And I lean on the side of saying he'll be good enough when you consider how dominant this defense is going to be and when you consider the level of shot maker that he is, right? Obviously, there are certain areas where he doesn't get to the line a ton. Like I say, in terms of just isolation scoring, that's not where he's at his best. But you give him a screen. He's a 3-level scorer, obviously. He's a good playmaker. And also has been one of the best defensive wings in basketball this year, which you have to factor in when you're considering the level he's at as a player. So I agree. There's been some encouraging stuff. And obviously, the first 15 games after Chet went down, J-Dub was so impressive. That was a great version of him. It's just the consistency that isn't quite where I would like to see it with him. But again, I think you get Chet on the floor, I don't think that everybody has a full appreciation for the level of basketball Chet was playing because the minutes, right? He gets hurt in the 10th game. So all of his per game averages come down because he only played a few minutes in that Warriors game. Like per minute, you think about just the aggression that he came out to start this season with, and he's one of the most skilled offensive bigs that we've seen in this league. So the potential is so high for him. And I really thought that he was tapping into a lot more of it this year. So like I said, I think that helps alleviate a lot of the offensive concerns too when he gets back and hopefully looks like himself.
Yeah, and I'm just confident that Jaylen Williams' game is actually going to translate well to the playoffs in general, right? I kind of look at what we saw last year in the playoffs as a bit of I'm hoping that it's an outlier. I think J-Dub's game scales well, right? Like how shifty he is, the looks that he gets. Now, J-Dub's never going to be able to really manufacture really easy looks for himself. Like he's a tough shot maker inherently, but I tend to lean on the side that's eventually going to translate through. And his role, like you said, dude, like when Chet gets back, J-Dub's role is so greatly reduced that, I think Chet's going to pull his weight enough to an extent. I thought they both were played worse than they could have last year. And I tend to think that with young guys, all right, let's get them out of the system. Let's get some experience. I think they're going to be a lot better this year. And again, the collective, how much better. That's what you can't really measure, with all these young guys that are getting better. You talk about Kason Wallace. If it is Wiggins, that means a lot. The collective growth that we see from all the young guys really matters when we're looking towards, the playoffs and everybody contributing. I like the balance that Oklahoma City is going to have if they're fully healthy.
Yeah, and that's the huge kicker. Kind of shifting gears a little bit and also touching a little bit on what you guys mentioned. We talked a lot about Chet and how good he was playing. And I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of people have just forgot how good he was playing because it was so long ago. And if you look back, the per game averages are messed up. But we had a friend of the pod, Clemente Almanza. He actually tweeted out after we beat the Cavs the second time, after Isaiah Hartenstein's injury, he said, best team in the league is full of healthy Thunder. Second best team in the league is the Thunder with Chet, no Hartenstein. Third best team, Hartenstein, no Chet. Fourth best team, small ball Thunder. And then fifth best team's Cavs. So I wanted to hear you guys' opinions on Hartenstein, the role he was able to play, with the Thunder with no Chet, taking on that load defensively and what he is able to provide offensively that is like, very different than what Chet is bringing, but still helps the offense flow.
I think Hartenstein's been really good. I think Hartenstein is just an excellent basketball player. And in terms of what he brings that is distinct from Chet offensively, you have a different level of physicality as a screener, certainly, which I think is very valuable. And then, of course, he has his incredible paint touch, which, although Chet's a really, really good shooter, right? He doesn't have the ability to just be automatic from 10 feet in the way that Hartenstein does. And then his feel as a playmaker is so valuable. I do think that although spacing is a question mark for this team at times and perimeter shooting, and he is a non-floor spacing 5, obviously. He's not a 0 in terms of spacing because he does have that ability off the short roll to kill you with the touch, but obviously he's not really spacing the floor. But he is still a really good complement to Shea out of pick and roll, and I think it's just a really, really good team offensive player. And I think defensively, right, has been a good rim protector and has been an elite rebounder, as he always is. Well, he's an elite offensive rebounder too, but just overall improving what was the biggest weakness for OKC last year, that being their performance on the glass. There is a sizable difference in terms of their overall proficiency as a rebounding team when Hartenstein is on the floor. So I think he has been a big success. I really think the only thing that remains to be seen once he is healthy again is how do he and Chet gel? And I'm optimistic about that because I think that Chet offensively is best at the 5. I think that basically any big is, right? I mean, you just have better spacing. You're getting more of those easy touches off the roll around the rim. It's an easier offensive environment to be efficient in. But I think if you look at like a Denver matchup, right, who to me has emerged, well, I thought they were the biggest threat to OKC in the West before the year. I feel that way now. They've been playing really, really good basketball as of late. You have to have a Hartenstein. You have to have a big body. You can throw at a Jokic who can compete on the glass. Then you can have Chet in the roamer role, which I think would be very effective in that matchup, and he can come over as a helper and disrupt stuff. So I'm optimistic about that fit too. But I think Hartenstein was a really good signing. I think it was the sort of win now move that OKC had to make to take that level up from second round exit last year to title favorite. And he's done his job when he's been healthy. They're 22-2 when he plays, which is just absurd. That's obviously no games with him and Chet.
And when you talk, Dylan, about, Chet Holmgren being underappreciated, I think Isaiah Hartenstein is too. People who were tapped in and watched the Knicks in the playoffs, I think, realized. But even when he got signed, a lot of people were like, oh, that's kind of an overpay for a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein. He's just a really valuable member of a rotation. And specifically what Carson's talking about, that versatility, not only against Denver, right? You have that versatility against any team. If you want to abuse that and go big body and just, out-rebound every opponent, which, again, the Thunder, that was their biggest shortcoming, their biggest flaw. I look further into a hypothetical matchup in the finals where you're going to take on Boston potentially. And that's another area where I think you need a guy like Hartenstein and Holmgren together, to match up with Porzingis and Horford, if that matchup would come to fruition. Or Cleveland, right? If Cleveland was able to come out of the East, I think, even though the Thunder were able to beat them down, some key guys.
Yeah.
I think in a 7-game series, or you would want, that would give you your best matchup against Mobley and Allen, just matching those big bodies on the court. You can't be at that big of a size deficit. It leaves you really vulnerable in that area, and he addresses those issues. And it's just so encouraging that the defense has been, and this defense was great when they were running super small ball 5. It's ridiculous the level the defense has been at. And I don't know, how great can this defense be when you have this kind of, these two caliber of rim protectors on the floor together? It's mind-boggling.
They had a 56 defensive rating in the preseason with Hartenstein and Chet on the floor. Now take that with a big old grain of salt, because that's like 30-something possessions in its preseason, but it was unbelievable. And you also made a good point, Logan. Like, nobody is better at compensating for a lack of size than the Oklahoma City Thunder. It is incredible what they've done with their small ball looks. I say you have to have a Hartenstein for a series against the Nuggets, but look at what they did to the Nuggets offense in their first meeting to open this regular season. They didn't have Hartenstein. They doubled the hell out of Jokic. They forced that offense into turnovers. They overwhelmed shooters. They just took the ball out of the best offensive player ever's hands, and it was a really effective defensive strategy and performance, because we've just never seen a defense, to me, that is this rich with perimeter defensive talent. This has this many dudes who are athletes, who are dogs like this, who have the sort of length that they have. It's incredible. I think there are multiple dudes who are playing at an all-defense level here on the perimeter. J-Dub, obviously. Lou Dort is that level of defender. Caruso is that level of defender. I think Cason Wallace is basically that level of defender. And Chet is a top 5 defender on the planet, and they haven't had him for a long time. It's really, really incredible how great this team is defensively.
Yeah, and it's been fun to watch. And, it's funny you talk about, what it will look like when Chet and Hartenstein are back on the floor, and like how scary that prospect is. Like, if you go back and look at the few losses that the Thunder have suffered this year, a lot of them could be pointed to like, oh, wow, having just one of those guys would help out tremendously. Like last night against the Mavericks, you have one of those guys. I'm not saying we win the game, but I'm saying, like, a lot of the things that we were hurting on, rebounding, rim protection, screen setting, like legitimate floor spacing with Chet Holmgren. Like, we didn't have nobody space the floor. They were just trapping Shea full court. Like, just having one of those guys solve so many problems for a team that doesn't have a lot of problems. So, like, it's genuinely a scary thought to think about, what it could be like once they finally do come back. But, yeah, and as you were talking about, like, the Thunder are able to win, like, with small ball lineups. It's really fun, the first couple games, playing small ball, because like the guys are like, oh yeah, like it's like almost like a challenge that they're accepting. But it's definitely like, and it's shown when Chet got hurt and Hartenstein wasn't back yet, and now it's shown with Hartenstein hurt and not back yet. It's not sustainable. Like, they can maybe string off a couple wins, but you have to like play at such a high level. You've got to put, you're in position to like take a beating on your body. So like it could really have some wear and tear on you, and specifically for guys like J-Dub earlier in the season, just not sustainable. So, if you got in a playoff series, like, and, that was like and you were in a cinch, like, cool, you can maybe like win 1 or 2 games, but like you got to get those guys back. And that's kind of what I've been kind of beating into Thunder fans' heads, specifically last night. Everybody's freaking out like, oh, the Mavs own us, like this, that, and another. I was like, yeah, like it's been bad matchups the past couple of times, but there's reasons, like there's clear reasons why we lost the game. And like, that's a big one in my opinion.
I mean, when you guys have one of your centers on the floor, either Chet or Hartenstein, you're 30-4. And that includes a Warriors loss that Chet got hurt in.
Yeah.
So, really call it 30-3. And then you're 6-5 in the other games. Like, there's a massive difference. It's impressive to win over 50% of your games without either one of them. But like you say, obviously it's not close to their best configuration. But one big, both bigs really, to me, is when they look like one of, if not the best team in the league. I think with both bigs, they are the best team in the league because of that versatility, because I feel like at that point they can just thrive in any matchup. They have so many options.
Exactly. I think that's a testament to Oklahoma City's versatility and the different ways they can win. And I mean, you just got to tip your cap to Jaylen Williams and the job he was doing as the 5 guy when he was in there. I mean, he was a really damn good rim protector. And you're right. Like in a long playoff run, it's hard to sustain because what you're asking your defense to do every single possession is your rotations have to be crisp. You have to be blitzing the pass that they're trying to make and interrupting that. That's how you win as a smaller team, blitzing the ball handler, forcing them to make quick passes, and then jumping those passing lanes. And it's harder to sustain, especially when you're this undersized, right? You're just going to inherently, you're going to allow more extra possessions. And it's really hard to win basketball games when you're not ending possessions and when you're allowing your opponent to get extra opportunities. But in a hypothetical matchup, say against a Golden State, for example, right? If you drew them in the playoffs, again, maybe you only go one, maybe you only go Chet, maybe you only go Hartenstein. Some matchups, maybe it suits you to go super small ball. I just think it's even more, I keep saying encouraging all these positive things about the Thunder. I just think it's positive that's a look that you can go to and still win in and succeed in. But obviously, like you guys are saying, I mean, Chet and Hartenstein together is like a cheat code.
Yep. I can't wait. All right. Kind of moving on into the next phase of the timeline. I just got excited hearing you guys gas up the team. So moving into the next phase of this timeline, as we talked about, Chet was playing at a clear all-star level earlier in the year. Obviously, the injury has derailed that. He's not eligible, this, that, and another. There's another guy that has made a claim for a potential all-star game spot. And I just want to ask you guys, do you guys think that Jaylen Williams is a deserving all-star this year? And do you think he makes it?
So a month and a half ago, I would have said that J-Dub was a lock because of what he was doing defensively. And because, like I said, in that stretch right after Chet got hurt, he was super efficient. He was picking up some of the slack like they needed offensively. I mean, in the month of November, he was 23, 6, and 5 on better than 64% true shooting. His 3-ball was on fire. At that point, I thought it's a no-brainer with the two-way impact and the team success for OKC. Since then, though, it really has been more of a struggle for him. I think he's at about 52% true shooting since December 1st. Maybe it's up a little bit now over the last couple games when he's played better, but very rough efficiency. And he just hasn't been able to lift OKC to the offensive results that you would want to see when Shea is off the floor. The crazy thing is, I don't know how the exact numbers have changed, but last I checked, they have like a 121 offensive rating when Shea and J-Dub are on the floor together. That goes up a couple points when Shea is on the floor without J-Dub. And then when J-Dub's out there without Shea, it's like a 107 offensive rating. So you're talking difference between an elite offense when Shea is out there. He can do that on his own. Terrible offense when J-Dub is out there alone. To me, it's just really tough. The Western Conference backcourt or frontcourt, whichever group, honestly, they consider him a part of, it's loaded. There's a lot of talent. And I just think offensively, he's too far behind some of the other players with the struggles that he's had over the last couple months.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I tend to completely agree with that. And honestly, it's just how tough the West is. Like, honestly, if J-Dub was in the East, he might be a lock. Like,
oh, he would be. He absolutely would be.
It's really just the tough part of that. And Carson and I, we did our All-Star show not that long ago. We were adamant believers that we should expand the All-Star game to 15 players or just more guys. There's so many talented players in the league that they get snubbed every year. And obviously we're going to have some guys that are injured and we get replacement guys, but I do think that more guys deserve the nod. I 100% think Jaylen Williams is going to be an all-star in the future, though. I think some of these guys are going to age out, and he's going to continue to get better. That's the real scary thing about Oklahoma City in general. So many of these young guys could still continue to ascend and get even better. And J-Dub's one of those guys. I think we're scratching the surface right now.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you in terms of like the numbers. Like I don't have my head in the hole. Like I've seen, his play in the last month and a half. I saw, kind of the diminishing returns a little bit. But my whole thing is kind of always been like, everybody keeps talking about how the Cavs, like, they're number one in the East. Like they deserve 2. No, they deserve 3. They might even deserve 4 All-Stars. And it's like, okay, if they're getting that many because they're number one in the East and the Thunder are number one in the West, like, yeah, at least you would think that they might get 2. But again, I completely understand numbers wise. Like, there's some guys that are like definitely up there on him, but in terms of just like rewarding the Thunder for being like just so much more dominant than anybody else in the West, that's kind of the only case I could see for him being in the All-Star game.
I get that. What I would say is the thing with OKC is the way that they have gotten to this totally dominant record is different, because it's not like the Cavs where they have 3 guys playing at a top 20 sort of level, but none of them are at that top 10 level. It's like SGA has been a top 3 player on the planet this year. Their collective defense is then their second greatest strength, the second most important part of them being this totally dominant team, which J-Dub is a big part of, but it's not like he's the driver of that. And so it's just different. Like I also think that the competition in the East is weaker, but I think that Garland, Mobley, Mitchell would all be locks. To me, Jared Allen doesn't have much of a case, but I think Garland has actually been the Cavs' best offensive player. I think he's been better than Mitchell this regular season. And Mobley, that's my guy. I love Mobley, and I think he's been out of this world. I think he's been a top 2 defender and has gotten so much better offensively. So I see what you're saying. It's super weird to have a team as great as the Thunder with only 1 All-Star, but it's tough in the West, man. Are you going to leave a Kyrie out with what he's gotten Dallas to do without Luka? Maybe you argue you could leave a Book out. I still think there's a big offensive gap between him and J-Dub, and Book's been playing better as of late.
He's got the pedigree too.
He does.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I definitely understand. Like, I'm not going to be, sore about Dub missing the All-Star game. But yeah, that's the only argument I could see. But it's all good either way. He'll make it 1 year. Chet will make it another year. Sure. Like, yeah, we're good.
You got to think bigger than that. Even
I was going to say,
let me tell you, Chet's going to be on some first team All NBAs if I have anything to say about him. J-Dub, I think will make an All NBA team at some point. I think he's that good.
And, like you were saying about expanding the All-Star game, like, especially with this new format where they've got like 4 teams of 7 playing each other, like, forget the Rising Stars champion, like, just have another All-Star team on there.
Yeah, it's weird. The fact that rosters haven't expanded for like 50 years, in which time the league has tripled in size and rosters have gotten bigger, literal team rosters have gotten bigger, and the talent has exploded and the game's gone global. It's very weird to me that we haven't grown the All-Star game at all.
Yeah, 100%. All right, moving in past the All-Star game. Actually, I guess this isn't past the All-Star game. This is before the All-Star game. No, it's past the All-Star game. Sorry, I'm wishy-washy here. All right, so trade deadline. You guys mentioned that this Thunder team is not perfect, and I completely agree with that. A lot of people don't want to mess with the whole chemistry of the team. Also get that 100%. A lot of people are terrified of, the luxury tax, the second apron, this, that, and other, financial flexibility whenever Chet and Dub are up for max extensions. First of all, do you think the team should make a trade? And second of all, if you do, who's like your top target for the Thunder to try to go get?
My favorite target is without a doubt Cam Johnson. That's probably the only like sizable trade that I would be looking at if I'm OKC. To me, just having a guy who is that level as a shooter, it addresses the biggest question that I have about this team. He's a solid defender. He would be one of the weakest defenders to get minutes for OKC, but that says way more about OKC being an insane defense than it does Cam, because he's a perfectly capable defensive player. And then again, just to have a guy at that size who can be that lethal off the catch, who can put up 7-8 threes a game and make 40% of them, it's a very reasonable contract. You're talking $22 million, and it stays at that rate for the next few years. Obviously, he's not a young guy because he was so old when he came into the league, but he's still totally aligned with your timeline if you just keep him through this contract. And there's just some movable mid-sized contracts that I think you can pretty easily shed, right? I think you can let Kenny Hustle go. I'm sorry to say. I think that you can let Ousmane Dieng go. And I know that a lot of people throw Topic into the deal. I actually really like Topic. But if it comes down to it, okay, even if it's an Isaiah Joe, like I would do that, man. I think Cam Johnson is a real upgrade. And again, these are the kind of moves that you make when you're trying to win a title. And obviously draft capital, you guys have 800,000 picks over the next 7 years. So, you throw 2 firsts in there, and that's really of such little consequence to you. That's the move that I want to see. That's the move that to me would be like, all right, OKC is, I don't know if they're in a tier of their own, because I still think very highly of Boston. I know they're slumping right now. I think that's an incredibly talented team, but like they're clearly the number 1 title favorite for me if they get Cam Johnson.
You guys don't want to trade 4 first-round picks and Chet Holmgren to get Giannis Antetokounmpo? What?
Jesus.
Come on. Dude, that would put him over the top, and you accelerate the timeline to right now. I like Carson's idea for Cam Johnson, and honestly, any solid rotational wing you could add like that adds that dimension of reliable shooting, I'm interested in. I really like that archetype for Oklahoma City. And like Carson mentioned, I mean, with the surplus of draft picks, that you talk about the luxury tax, that's what I think is really interesting more about Oklahoma City is not the play. They could draft whoever they want, and they have a tremendous scouting department. And if their draft history tells us anything, it's that they can find gems wherever in the draft. The most interesting thing to me is how they're going to be able to take players that maybe they don't want to pay long-term, like you're talking about, in packaging these picks to maybe pivot to get players on better contracts. Like there's just so many things that the Thunder can do they've got so many areas in different ways where they could build this roster out. Personally, I kind of like the Thunder's chances to win the title without making any moves at the deadline right now, though. I think they are my favorite. I've still got them over Boston, and the shooting is a little scary, but I trust it. I think Isaiah Joe is a money shooter. I think Kason Wallace is a really good shooter. I think Wiggins is a really good shooter. J-Dub, Chet, like Caruso. And it's tough for these guys, right? Because it's hard when you have a player as good as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so the ball can't get around as much, and it's harder as a shooter to get in rhythm when you're not touching the ball as often. But I think these guys are really good shooters, and I trust their offensive punch heading into the playoffs, even if they don't make a move.
Would you do the Cam Johnson move personally, Logan?
What was the trade?
Well, I mean, you can find a number of those mid-sized contracts. I think Kenrich Williams and Dieng are basically a lock in there because they're unessential. And then you could go with Topic, say, okay, he's not in the rotation right now.
I wouldn't want to give up
You could
Topic.
go with an Aaron Wiggins.
I'd be okay with giving up Wiggins or Joe. I think Cam's...
I think it's worth it.
I think Cam brings comparable shooting, and he brings that defensive element. I think it's worth it.
He brings a lot more shooting. Cam
has
that
I was just saying Isaiah Joe, because Isaiah
Yeah,
Joe's an
Isaiah
awesome shooter.
He does. But the size is also a big thing.
100%.
No, I you're preaching to the choir, man. I've been all for trading for Cam since very early in the year. That Jeffrey Oakley actually asked in the chat. He said, "I'd rather trade Wiggins than Joe." I want to ask you guys: do you guys have a preference, like which player OKC should keep in that scenario between Wiggins or Joe?
I really feel like the argument for Isaiah Joe is just that he is the better shooter. And I can definitely see that case because even if you do bring in Cam Johnson, right, you still really want that reliable shooting.
Yes.
I kind of have mixed feelings, though, because I do think that Wiggins is really good, and I think that he's gotten better this year, and he is on the even smaller contract. Both of these are good contracts, but Wiggins is pretty nutty. But, yeah, maybe with the specific construction of this roster, I would just want to maximize the shooting that I can keep around. So I think I agree with Jeffrey, but it's very close, and at the end of the day, I would be willing to give either one of them up to get Cam.
I agree with the sentiment. I would be willing to give either of them up, but I would rather keep Wiggins. I think Wiggins, just the two-way value, the size, and I think Wiggins has just a little bit more of like that actual closeout attacking ability. Like Isaiah Joe is a special shooter. Like, he is a ridiculous shooter of the basketball, but I just prefer Wiggins all-around game, and I can see him being more valuable long-term in playoff runs just with his archetype.
Yeah, I this has kind of been a conversation on the pod for like the last few weeks as well. And I was in the pro Isaiah Joe over Wiggins camp just because, kind of like what Carson was saying, like Joe has an elite, like, translatable skill, like 100%. Aaron Wiggins is kind of like a jack of all trades guy. Like, he can like be really good in one area and like a lot of nights, but like you could always rely on Isaiah Joe. And like the numbers are kind of down a little bit because they're stretching him as a shooter this year. A lot more DHOs, a lot more movement shooting, not as much like standstill spot ups. But that's kind of where I was at. It was a lot easier to make that case before Aaron Wiggins had that 15-point fourth quarter against the Knicks.
Crazy.
But yeah, no, that's I'm in the same camp with you guys. Like, whichever one has to go, I think is good for the Thunder, but I think it's also good for them, to like go to a different, situation to kind of like spread their wings and expand their role. And also it helps the Thunder in the fact that, we have a lot of picks coming up in the next couple of years, like you guys were saying. And the Thunder don't like just trading out a draft. They really value the draft. They're really good at the draft. They're probably going to draft players and bring them in. And in order for that to happen, you got to have roster spots. And if there's another plus to bringing in a guy who's already high caliber shooter with size, capable defender, finals experience, great contract as Cam Johnson, it also consolidates the roster a little bit and gives you some roster spots going into the offseason whenever you have a really good draft and you're in position to have a couple of really good picks.
Well, and it's not like you're trading for Gordon Hayward. You know what you're getting. Like, Cam Johnson's a sure thing that he's going to deliver for you. Like, it's not like you're just giving away a player.
Yeah, his shooting would have absolutely helped last night whenever they were blitzing Shea full court on the trap. So, hey, I'm glad we're on line.
And real quick, the only other thing I want to add is that I think there's incentive for Brooklyn to do the deal as well, because their timeline is just the future. Like, get whatever young players you can get. And like you said, for those other younger guys, they can play bigger roles and maybe grow their game and turn into completely different players, and turn into – number threes or number fours or whatever they're destined to be. I think it could be mutually beneficial for both sides because Cam deserves to be on a playoff contender.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of players that have like gone from OKC and have, played in bigger roles like Ty Jerome, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Trey Mann, earlier in the season, like guys like that. So I could definitely see them falling into that kind of archetype. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit off of the itinerary just because, we talked a lot about him with Nico Topic. I know you guys also follow the draft, like you're very into the draft. And I know you were high on Topic whenever we was talking about him. We didn't get a chance to talk, after the draft, but I wanted to hear what you guys kind of thought about Topic on this Thunder team, because specifically it feels like, there's not a perfect Thunder team, things that, they still need. It feels like the role that we've kind of gave AJ Mitchell, and AJ Mitchell has done well, like done extremely well as a second round pick, as, kind of the secondary initiator whenever Shea goes off the bench, a guy that can drive and get to the rim. Feels like that's going to be Topic's role, and Topic could probably do that at a higher level. How do you guys feel about Topic's fit on this team?
I totally agree. I mean, I think that's where he comes in seamlessly. He is that bench creator. If that's in tandem with J-Dub, or maybe even at some point he could carry those bench units. Like, I think that Topic is a really talented offensive player in a draft that did not have a ton of super high-end talented offensive players. Like, I thought it was an absolute steal that you guys got him. I get the injury concerns, of course, but guy was 18 years old when he tore his ACL, right? That's very rarely career defining. It's a concern, sure, but I think it was a great value pick. And like you say, he's got that shiftiness to his game. He gets downhill. He's a very efficient below the rim finisher. He's got good body control, and he's the best passer in the draft, right? He's very dynamic, very creative. He can make those reads to the roller. He can make those skip passes. So the question with him is always going to be about the shot, but I think the touch is encouraging. You look at the 87% shooting from the line, like He's also going to be, I think, primarily in an on-ball role. I don't think that he's ever going to be a starter for you guys just because the fit for him with J-Dub and SGA, like that would be weird. But so if he is in that bench role, then he is going to be on ball more. And then I'm not as concerned about his ability to like play off the catch, shoot off the catch. So yeah, I think that he really could bring some of that juice off the bench and help the exact sort of units that we're talking about that have been struggling.
Exactly. I mean, he's a big, strong ball handler. I like how much he gets downhill. And, I think there's a difference because a lot of people would look at it and go, oh, he's in like the same archetype as a Josh Giddey, right? But like Carson was saying, as long as you're not playing him in these starting units and forcing him to be a spot up guy where teams aren't going to respect him, well, then you're not hindering your offense. You're bringing him in the role that he is designed to play in that 6-man spark plug kind of guy in non-Shea J-Dub minutes. And I think he can flourish. Like, again, you've got spot up shooting here. You've got defense behind him. If he can just set the table for guys, he can play a really valuable role on this team. And he grew on me as the draft process went along. Carson was definitely higher on him, but he grew on me as we got closer and closer. I think he can play a really valuable role on this team. And when we're looking at other guys, like you're talking about guys that are potentially expendable, I wouldn't want to give up on Topic. I think he brings you a different dimension that players on this roster don't have. And I really value that.
Also, I will say, in terms of the Giddey comp, not only do I think that Topic has a lot more shooting potential because his shot isn't totally busted like Giddey's was as a prospect, and he does have the free throw numbers, he's also a way better scorer because of his ability to get to and finish around the rim, which was always an issue for Giddey. So I think those comps do him dirty. I think he's a much better prospect.
Yeah, and to be fair, the Thunder told Giddey, like, hey, if you're still on this team, like, we're gonna move you to the bench, like you're gonna be like the creator off the bench. And Giddey didn't want that, so that's absolutely kind of the role that Topic will kind of slide into. And actually, the Giddey deficiency video is how I found you guys. So that was just
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. But yeah, hey, let's talk about more encouraging things. Record predictions. We've got a couple teams that have crazy win paces right now. Let's go glass half full. Let's say Isaiah Hartenstein, who's supposed to be reevaluated this week, let's say he's back on Sunday. Let's say Chet Holmgren comes back post All-Star break. The Thunder are currently sitting at, I believe, 36 wins?
Yep, 36-8.
Yep. 36, yeah, 36 wins. What is the final record total you guys believe the Thunder will have if Hart comes back this week, Chet's come back post All-Star break?
I'm tempted to say 66. I feel like their schedule's a little bit lighter in the second half of the year. I mean, they've certainly played all the best teams in the East. They played the Cavs twice. They played the Knicks twice. And I just think they're 28-5 when Shea plays and Chet doesn't, man. Like, I just think this team is an absolute bulldozer because of their defense. I don't see a reason that they would stop rattling off wins unless they let their foot off the gas a little bit because they've locked up the 1 seed. But that's not how this team has ever really approached the regular season under Daigneault. And they're young. They have the energy. SGA's only missed 1 game. I'm going to go 66.
I'm going to say 64, but it's not like anything based in, it's hard to win that many games. It's not anything against the Thunder. It's like, I could see this team winning 70 games. And honestly, in the future, with the level that I expect Chet and J-Dub to reach, and if they can keep the continuity of this team together, I wouldn't be surprised at 70 in the future at all. But I'll go conservative and I'll say 64, which is still, unbelievable. One of the best teams this century.
Trade for Cam Johnson, move the needle at all on the win?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe bump me 4. I'd be willing to go maybe 68. That's a huge addition.
68 would be incredible. I do think it's harder to win like 70 games right now than it ever has been for multiple reasons. Stars don't play as high a percentage of games because of rest and whatnot, although that is an exception with Shea and OKC, but obviously they've had their injuries. Injuries have also become a little bit more prevalent in recent years. But then also there's so much talent around the league and 3-point shooting variance. Like it's just a little easier to get got on a Wednesday night in January because the other team just outshoots you. So it is insanely impressive what they're doing and also what Cleveland is doing, of course. But the fact that OKC has done it shorthanded is just what boggles my mind. It's so impressive.
Yeah, and you've also got the fact that we have such a huge cushion on the rest of the West in terms of the 1 seed. Like we might clinch the 1 seed with like 3 weeks to go in the regular season. And
totally.
And the Thunder have never been a team that's just like trying to go for accolades. Like we were in OKC whenever we was up 60 points on the Portland Trailblazers. The opportunity to snatch back the biggest point differential record from the Grizzlies and Mark Daigneault pulled the starters. So
yeah.
All right. Let's kind of go to the playoffs real quick. Just rifle through the playoffs and then the draft, and then we'll get to our game to end this. Most ideal matchup for the Thunder in the first round and worst matchup in the first round.
I think the worst matchup is obviously Dallas, just because that's actually in play because of seeding. Now, I definitely would pick the Thunder to win that series, but Dallas to me is the top 3 team in the West at full strength. And we have seen the success that they've had. I think this year is different because I think the supporting cast in OKC is a lot better. I do think Jada would play better than last year. I think Chet would play better than last year. I think Shai's even better than last year. And again, maybe there is a Cam Johnson move coming in the wings, but that's the worst matchup pretty clearly that's actually in play. The best matchup for them, I guess if they get the Kings, that just wouldn't scare me at all. No disrespect, because the Kings have been playing good basketball as of late, but what's their path to winning that series? I don't see it for the Kings.
Yeah.
I think I completely agree with that. I mean, other matchups that I think would intrigue me against Oklahoma City, Dallas is nightmare scenario. Phoenix and Golden State would intrigue me just with how they play basketball and how up-tempo they go. But, I mean, I would soundly pick Oklahoma City, maybe in 5.
Dude, honestly, maybe those teams are even better matchups. I think those are just worse basketball teams than the Kings. It's been
you think they're worse than Sacramento?
I think Phoenix's roster around KD and Book is an abomination.
Oh, he doesn't love the Nick Richards move.
But that's the thing, man. It's like maybe. Well, no, I do like that move. I do like that move actually. That is an upgrade, but there's a lot more upgrades that need to be made. And the Warriors, I'm a Warriors fan, but it's just Steph, man. I mean, the lack of creation and offensive competence around him is really, really rough, and the magic wore off there. So I just honestly don't think those teams are going to make it through to the final field of 8. I don't see the Warriors doing that or the Suns.
Thunder legend Lindy Waters III isn't doing it for you, Carson?
Dude, I was at his crazy game where he made like 6 threes against the Thunder. Wasn't that against the Thunder? Yeah, I can't remember now, but yeah. So that was electric, but it hasn't quite been the same since.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. We kind of talked like briefly with the MVP thing. Like, I guess what's your official prediction? Who do you think wins the MVP?
My prediction?
Yeah.
So a week ago, I made a lot of people mad because I said that I felt that SGA at that moment was the MVP, and it was not very close. And I've always been a huge Jokic guy and a huge just defender of his, and somebody who said this is the greatest offensive player ever. His peak is so high, et cetera, et cetera. So I think a lot of people got mad because I said that SGA had the best case. What I just meant when I said it wasn't very close, it was not that it wasn't close, period, or that there wasn't a case for Jokic, just like SGA at that point, clear front runner. Because I think what a lot of people have started to forget in recent years is that team success is really important in the MVP race, right? And in the recent years that Jokic had won without elite team success, he wasn't going up against a player at SGA's level who was also on a sort of juggernaut like OKC while the team is shorthanded. Like, if you look at the historical precedent, when you win 65 plus games, you have the MVP on your roster 76% of the time. 37 of the last 42 MVPs came from a top 2 seed. Now, you can disagree with that. Personally, I hate just like the default best player, best team case. I think that's nonsense if you're just like trying to throw a name into the mix because they're on the best roster. But obviously, that is not SGA's case. SGA has the two-way impact. He has the insane volume. He has the efficiency. He has the impact numbers where they're 18 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor, which is an unbelievable number. And just when he's on the floor, I believe they have the best net rating of any team in NBA history, or like even with any team superstar on the floor. You compare it to 2016 Steph, the Thunder have a better net rating with SGA on the floor. So all of that stuff is just insane. And the craziest part of the case to me is 28-5 without Chet, 34 points per game on over 65% true shooting in those games. It's an A-plus MVP case. I do think Jokic is also making an A-plus MVP case, though. And to me, he's having the greatest offensive season that we have ever seen. It's one of the greatest floor-raising jobs that we have ever seen. And the reason that, to me, even in this last week and a half, the race has gotten closer is because the Nuggets are winning games. They haven't lost in a while. They're 11-1 in their last 12 with Jokic. And on the year, he's 30, 13, and 10 on 65% true shooting. The Nuggets are 22 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor. They are a plus 13 net team when he is on the floor, which isn't as good as Shea's Thunder, but it is pretty remarkable considering the roster, some of the struggles from Murray, them being without Aaron Gordon. So if I were to project who do I think when all is said and done makes the best case, I think the Nuggets are going to keep winning games. I think they're going to pretty easily get the 2 seed. I think they might win 55 games. And if Jokic does that while having the greatest offensive season ever, I just think he closes the gap in terms of team success by enough where he's the MVP. If we were to choose today, I would still slightly go Shea because I think he makes that perfect conventional case. But I kind of see things trending more towards Jokic. And to me, Jokic is clearly the best player alive. So if he gets that team success component going, I think he's going to be really hard to deny. And he's getting it going right now.
Yep.
He is. And I think Jokic is still the best player on the planet as well. But I don't know. If Oklahoma City wins 60 games, I don't know how you don't give it to Shea. What
about if the Nuggets win 54 or 55? With their roster, with Jokic's production.
It's really impressive. I also do think voter fatigue is going to play a little bit of a role into it. And if Shea's case is that good with 60, I think that just for the sake of something new, I think enough people would vote for Shea. I still think Shea is going to win it. They've got to get that. I think 60 is the number. I think they've got to hit that threshold, but I mean, they're well on their way.
I think it's higher than 60. I think it's like 65 plus. And even then, you're not safe if the Nuggets are winning in the 50s.
I mean, I don't want to because Jokic has an awesome case. It's ridiculous. I mean, I think they were like plus 27 last time I checked. Was his on-off, which is unreal. I think Shea just makes such an impeccable case. So I'm going to say SGA.
Right now, to me, this is the best MVP race ever. It's better than 1962 for the fans of the Russell versus Wilt's 50 points per game versus Oscar's triple-double versus Elgin's 38 points per game. It's better than 2006, which was a crazy race between Nash and Dirk and LeBron and Kobe. Like, these are 2 MVP cases that in 95% of seasons just win, and there's not really a conversation about it. It's crazy to me that they're going up against each other. I really want to see Shea get one. I really do, because Shea and Jokic are they're my 2 favorite players in the NBA today. So I'm very happy that they're both having incredible historic seasons. I think it's really, really close right now.
Yep. And the fact that you guys both had like 2 different answers, like with conviction, just tells you how close it is. So I'll accept it. Last question I have about awards, because, I think it's pretty cut and dry. Shea's going to be an MVP candidate. He'll be a first-team All-NBA. The only thing that I kind of am interested in terms of awards is the defensive team. How many players and which players do you think could make the all-defensive team for the Thunder?
That's a good question. So I kind of threw out earlier, I guess I said 5 dudes who are playing at like an all-defense level, including Chet, who obviously isn't eligible because of all his injuries. Realistically, I think
SGA's got to be a lock, right?
I don't think SGA is a lock. No, I think J-Dub's a lock. SGA is going to have the stock totals, but to me, he's like the 5th best healthy defender on the team. I think Lou is going to make a real case, but I kind of have to map out who are the dudes. So like Mobley is going to be a lock. I think Triple J is going to be a lock.
It's positionless now,
right? It's positionless now.
Yep.
I think that Amen Thompson to me is basically a lock right now. Wemby, who is going to win
Dyson
Defensive Player
Daniels.
of the Year. Dyson Daniels is a lock. So that's 5 right there. Including J-Dub, that's 6. To me, J-Dub is probably the
Drew
most
Holiday.
likely. Maybe. I mean, I think that Bam, as bad of an offensive season as he's having, is having a great defensive season. I mean, he's just doing his thing as always.
Of course, Khalil Ware.
Khalil Ware, of course. I think OG is probably in the mix there. But okay, I mean, we don't have to literally get the exact team. I think J-Dub and Lou will both make good cases. And then I think that Kaysen and Caruso will be sort of just on the outside of the conversation looking in. Shea will be a little further. Maybe people will have him higher than I would personally. And I get it, he's one of the best off-ball defensive wings in basketball. But like I said, there are several dudes on OKC who I would take over him. What do you think, Logan? Or what do you guys think?
I mean, well, I was just going to say, I think you could just give the entire all-defense team to the Thunder, man. I mean, that's basically what they got going on. Like, you just look at the caliber guys. I mean, they almost have 2 starting 5s of all defense guys. It's ridiculous, but I tend to agree. I do think SGA should be in consideration just because it is pretty ridiculous what he's been at. But I think J-Dub, Dort, and Caruso probably make the best normal cases. There's just so many damn good defenders across the league. You know, we were talking about expanding the All-Star teams earlier. I can't remember what player it was, but they suggested
it was Jaylen Williams.
Yeah, it was J-Dub. That we should have the all-defense 3rd team, and I don't mind it. Or I heard another one, dang, RIP. I think we lost Carson.
I know, right?
I heard another guy say that we should have another Defensive Player of the Year award too for the perimeter, and I think both of those.
Dub.
Oh, that was also Dub. Dang, man. I think those are great. I think those are great ideas, and there's just so many good defenders on the planet right now, but I think J-Dub will probably get there, and I think Dort makes one hell of a case. Honestly, I mean, if your guys' defensive rating stays at this level, I think you've got to have at least one or multiple guys on there. It's such an impressive team effort.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. So Caruso's only played 26 games. I'm wondering if he will even if he'll hit the eligibility mark on that. But I don't know. And with Kaysen kind of being in the starting lineup, I wonder if he makes a case going down the stretch because he's played some phenomenal defense recently, like the freaking Jazz game, he's just picking dudes off left and right and then punching on Walker Kessler. That was great. We got Carson back now.
Oh, you don't have to. Dude, Kason Wallace was one of my favorite guys in that draft class, man. I was all about some Kason Wallace. He reminded me a little bit of Drew, but the guy just plays such smart, connected team. He's just a team guy, man. He's a guy I want on my team. He's a winner. He's always in the right spot. He's unselfish, and he's a great defender. I love Kason, man. Fucking Thunder, man. They get every good player.
Oh, we didn't mention Draymond Green in the all-defense names. Draymond's a lock.
Gotta be.
Yeah. But I think that there's room for J-Dub and Lou. I do. Can you guys see me?
Yeah. Can you see us?
I can't see myself. No, I can see you guys. I just wanted to be sure.
That's tough.
Yeah. Frankly, I look at myself the whole time and I just smile. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's all right.
And maybe you got to get a TV screen and project your screen too.
True. I do.
Join the club.
Or I can just do a big mirror.
Dude, that's what I'm on. That's what I'm on right now.
Yeah, that's what I said before the pod. My screen is completely effed, so I'm in my kid's room right now. That's why you got the sunshine behind me here. And yeah, I've got it projected on the TV screen. All right, last question before we get into our game. And this could be just super brief. I don't even know how deep you guys are into the NBA draft at this point, but the Thunder right now, if the season were to end today, would have the pick 7 and pick 21. You don't gotta get super deep into it, but just one or two guys that you guys like in this draft that you could see the Thunder try to target.
I'm sad to say that I'm really not deep into draft stuff at all yet. But I think if you're looking at archetypes,
Cooper Flag, right?
Well, that would be great. That'd be great. Get that Sixers pick and ride that all the way to Cooper Flag, who I do think is absolutely amazing. But I think if you don't trade for Cam Johnson, you're looking to recreate Cam Johnson, right? Some sort of real sharpshooting wing to me is the primary need, the biggest need for this team.
I'm not super normally, like, as the season's winding down, as we're in playoffs, is when I really start getting dialed into draft stuff. But I think that's a good archetype. I mean, Cooper Flag is the dream. You guys would be. I think we'd have to cancel the NBA.
Unfair.
We'd have to cancel the NBA.
That would, be incredible, but also just so bad for the competitiveness of the league.
I will give you two guys that I do like. Derek Queen of Maryland. I don't know if he's the exact archetype that you need, but I really like his game. He's all around two-way kind of guy. I like his touch, like lefty and righty. He's a good defensive player, big body, and there's a little something there, like with the floor space. It's not like a sure thing where I think he's going to be able to space the floor, but I like his touch, and that encourages me. And then I like that tall guard out of BYU. I like Demeen. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he's a lanky ball handler, long guy, like a little bit of touch, and he's really, really young. And that's the thing, man. That's what I love about the Thunder's surplus of assets is, I mean, they can take. You want a guy with just youth and upside that maybe you want to develop long-term and see if he pans out. Do you need an immediate impact guy? Like the Thunder just got options, man. It's a real spoil of riches.
Yep, absolutely. All right, fellas, that is all the content I have for questions-wise. But as we do when we have our guests, we try to end on a fun note. We try to play a game. If you guys have not watched Nerd Sesh, like, first of all, like, what the frick are you doing? Like, it's great content. But these guys are trivia nuts. Like, I kid you not, the trivia goes deep on NBA, NCAA, NFL. So we're going to do some Thunder trivia in an eliminator style game. So basically what I'll do is I got 3 categories in case it gets to that point, but I will give you a prompt and you guys will go back and forth with answers until somebody well, we won't do until somebody misses, but we'll do until we run out.
All right.
And whoever has the most in the category, by the time you run out, you win the category, and then we'll move on to the end.
Love it.
All right, the first prompt, we'll start off easy. We'll start off current. First rounders currently on the Thunder.
Who starts?
And I feel like Carson starts the conversation a lot, so we're gonna go to Logan first.
True.
All right. I mean, I'll take Chet Holmgren.
Okay, I'll take Shea.
I will take Kason.
I'll take J-Dub.
I will take Ousmane Dieng.
That's a good pick. I will take. Whoa, we kind of got low. I mean, I'll take Topic.
Oh, fuck, man. Damn, are we out?
There's one more. So if you get this, you win the category.
Oh, I know who it is.
I don't. I'm gonna guess. Is it Wiggins?
No, it's Dylan Jones.
It's Dylan Jones.
Oh my! I like Dylan Jones too.
One of the
I like
good
him a
guys.
lot. I forgot
he
about
was a
Dylan
sneaky
Jones.
First rounder. He was not.
I forgot about him.
First round.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, it was very late. I think it was like pick 26 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So Carson takes round 1. Logan, you get a chance.
I got to force OT, man. I got to force OT.
Yeah, but we are starting with Carson. So this is taking it back a little bit, throwing it back to 2012. Members on the roster of the Oklahoma City Thunder finals team.
All right, I'll take Kevin Durant. I'm not letting Logan get any of the easy ones.
I'll take Russell Westbrook.
Okay, I'll take Serge Ibaka.
I'll take James Harden.
All right, I'm going to take hand up Nick Collison.
I'll take Thabo Cephalosha.
I'm sure you will. I will take Kendrick Perkins.
I'm not 100. I'm going to take Eric Maynor. Was he there?
Yes.
That's a good pull. I love a little Eric Maynor. I'll take Daquan Cook.
All day.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if this guy was there. I'm going to take Ryan Gomes. Was he there?
Ryan Gomes was not there.
So. No.
You're not out. We just keep going.
Oh, we're going to keep going? Okay. Yeah. Well, Derek Fisher, that's probably the biggest one left.
D-Fish. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about guys who were getting rotational minutes, man. Like AC Law? I don't know, dude. Royal Ivy? Who was
I was
there,
gonna say
man?
Royal
Ivy is there.
He was still there. Oh,
Yep.
dude, I loved Royal Ivy and Johan Petro for some reason. I guess just great names. Great names.
Yeah, so I guess Carson wins round 2 as well. I do have a longer category for the end, so we're just gonna go double
Let's
or nothing.
run it. Let's run it.
All right, I love it. I love it.
You did miss legends like Cole Aldrich,
No!
Lazar Hayward.
Cole Aldrich. That was
Right.
I
I actually-
next up.
Cole Aldrich crossed the mind, but I wasn't confident enough to let it rip.
Cole Aldrich.
Reggie Jackson, Kentucky legend Nazir Muhammad, and of course
Reggie Jackson,
Ryan
damn.
Reed.
Wow.
Wow. Hold on.
Who?
I don't think I know who Ryan Reed is, bro. I think I know just about everybody.
Yeah, I think he
Who
was
the
a
hell?
rookie. We drafted him in like the second round that year.
Oh my God, he
play a
played
minute.
5 games. He played 5
Oh, he
games that
did.
season, and that's all he did in his career, though. He played 5 career games. Wow,
That's
that's a
amazing.
good pull.
All right, this is the final category, double or nothing. Logan, you have a chance to redeem yourself. We're actually going to – I can't start with you in good conscience because Carson did win, so we will start with Carson. This is a very large category. It'll be interesting to
Okay.
see how far y'all can go with it. But players that the Thunder have traded for since 2017 that played actual minutes for the Thunder.
Actual minutes meaning literally a minute or more, right?
Yes, like they actually played for the Thunder because we've traded for a lot of players that
Yeah.
never even wore a Thunder jersey.
Okay, I'll take Gordon Hayward.
Dang, man.
Well, there's a very easy one.
Don't
that
be
you
lost
could
in the
get.
vastness.
Logan, there's a very easy one that you could
SGA.
get. There you go. Okay. I'm trying to think about recent moves. Oh, you guys traded for Horford, right? That wasn't a signing.
Yes, we traded for him.
Okay.
I'm going to piggyback on that Chris Paul.
Oh,
Yep.
that was an easy one. PG was a signing.
Mm-mm.
Oh, that was a trade?
Yep.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. No,
that
that
was a bonus. Yeah, I'm tripping. Okay. I'll take that, even though I messed up. initially.
He was the player that you
Um,
forgot whenever we was doing the starting.
That
lineup.
was the craziest. That was like the craziest moment of my life. I sat here for 5 minutes and couldn't remember Paul George.
Speaking of which, Oladipo.
Yeah, we traded for him. That was before 2017, so I'll let you
Oh,
go
damn.
again.
All right, since 2017.
I don't know. I've been thinking about this guy, like Dario Saric.
Yes.
Holy shit, that's a great pull, Logan. Okay, does it count if you traded for the draft pick and then took that player?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Have
that does count. Okay. I'm trying to think. I know that you guys traded out of the IQ pick. I'm trying to
Don't remind me.
remember who you took instead or what happened with all that, and that's too complicated for me to remember, so I'm not going to do that.
If Logan doesn't know, I'll tell you after his turn.
Well, you mentioned Ty Jerome earlier. You guys traded for Ty Jerome, right?
Yes, he was in the Chris Paul trade.
Hell yeah.
All right, dude. I'm just gonna rip it because y'all mentioned a UVA legend. Mamadi Diakite. Did he get 1 minute?
He definitely did play. I can't remember if we traded for him or signed for him.
He must.
He
have
was-
been a
He was
signing,
getting
right? Well, I don't
he
know.
was getting passed around by NBA teams as like the extra guy in
Yeah.
like every trade. No, he signed a 10-day, man.
Yeah,
No.
it's all good.
Okay,
You still
my
got
final
chances.
rip is Mitch McGary.
We drafted him, brother.
Why is that
Damn.
your final rip?
Bro, I wanted to shout out Mitch McGary. You remember him?
Of course I do. Michigan legend. I remember everybody except for apparently Ryan Reed.
Who is Ryan Reed?
Ryan Reed. Yeah, no, the player you was thinking about, Carson, was Alexei Pokashevsky.
Oh, that
the
Boku,
theoretical
you guys
best
took
basketball
Boku.
player of all time.
Oh my god.
You guys passed up on
Oh.
Emmanuel quickly for Bogu.
And Jaden
Yeah.
McDaniels. That we don't like to talk about it.
That's
oh
rough.
my god. I forgot that was all interrelated.
I was so mad during the draft because I knew it was going to happen because like it leaked like for weeks before that. I was literally just playing 2K while we were doing our draft like live pod. I was like, this is so stupid. I hate everything.
The Poku thing was hilarious because like parts of it were intriguing, but then I saw people who had him like top 5 on their boards, and I was like, what are you talking about? Very optimistic.
Yeah, you guys missed some legends like Justin Jackson's FEMA High Luke, Kentucky legend Darius Miller,
wow,
Man.
Kenny Hustle, Davis Bertans.
Was Ennis Cantor on the list? He was another one I was thinking of. Did you guys trade for him?
We did trade for him, but yeah, that was like 2014, I think. 14 or 15. Yeah, I think it was 14, 15. Yeah, we got Gallo, as DCFNF is saying in the chat. We got Gallo in the Shea trade as well.
It's ridiculous the turnover that you guys have had.
Dennis Schroeder, the Melo trade.
Gallo was definitely there for the taking. Yeah, man, Bertans. What did he play, like 20 minutes for you guys?
He came in, made some extremely high difficulty threes, and got cooked on defense. That was all he did.
Yep. That's about right.
Latvian laser, man.
The Latvian laser. We called him Pegasus on one of my old podcasts because it was like he's not a unicorn. So like, what's another mythical? Like, he's Pegasus, of course. Logan, you got swept. I'm sorry, brother.
Happens when you're dealing with the best of the best, man. I tell you.
If we did NFL, I'd get swept. You know, it's competitive. It was very competitive.
Dude, you play for the love of the game, man.
Listen, I'm a Steelers fan, so I don't really want to talk about NFL right now.
Same.
So is Logan. I'm a Bills fan. It's all I can think about. I can only think about the NFL.
You feeling pretty good about your chances Sunday?
I'm feeling reasonably good. I think that the Bills are the better team, and I picked them to win, but I can't ever be super confident against the Chiefs. Like, I'm expecting a very, very close game. And I went and I rewatched all of the other iterations of the playoff matches. I didn't watch the 2020 game, but I watched the 2021 and 2023 games, and those were both real heartbreakers. I was at the playoff game last year, so not running that one back. But, yeah, it was nice until Tyler Bass missed a 44-yard field goal to tie the game, and then it was snowing, and we had like a 3-hour drive after that. That part wasn't so nice. But yes, I am feeling optimistic. I do think the Bills are going to win, and I think this is their year to win it all.
I mean, Josh Allen has been absolutely maniacal this year, so I'm with you. I'll be rooting for the Bills in solidarity with you, sir.
I appreciate that. I was watching a 59-minute Josh Allen highlight video in the gym today, and it was getting me to push weight around like you've never seen.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's all I can think about, dude. It's pretty bad.
I mean, it'll be a good game. I mean, both games are going to be really good games. So very excited. But fellas, I'll let you guys get kick-started on your weekend. I appreciate you guys coming on once again, dropping all your expertise on the Thunder, making us feel really good about our team after a loss last night, which I feel like the conversation was just like completely overblown. And it's really cool to have, not outsiders, but like from an outside perspective about, put into perspective how good this team actually is in spite of what happened last night. So I appreciate you guys doing that. I want to give you guys the floor. Go ahead and plug anything you want to plug, what you might be working on, where folks can find you.
Of course. Well, thank you for having us on, Dylan. This is always very fun. Also, I just saw somebody drop Caruso in the chat for traded players. Somehow we did not think of him. That was probably one of the easiest on the board. It was the most recent. But you can find us at Nerd Sesh everywhere. On YouTube, we do lots of NBA content. We also do NFL content. So if you are a football fan, we will be reacting to all the playoff games this weekend, and we previewed them all today. But we do full podcast episodes about the NBA. We also do some film breakdown stuff, some video essay stuff. So that's on YouTube. You can find our show anywhere, and you can follow us across social at Nerd Sesh on TikTok and Instagram, and Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. We do trivia stuff. And also, we've got clips from our show. We've got graphics from our show. So you can find us everywhere at Nerd Sesh.
There you go. And you should absolutely do that. Like I said, their show is phenomenal, and the trivia is mind-blowing. It's fun to play along, and then it's not as fun to just absolutely lose miserably because, like I said, these guys are encyclopedia of sports knowledge. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a great night. God bless. Hoop when you can. And as always, Thunder up. All right. You guys don't want to say it? That's cool. That's cool.
Oh, Thunder up.